Assassin's Creed Valhalla is an extraordinarily good game, but for me it doesn't quite live up to the standards that Odyssey has set. Unfortunately, Assassin's Creed Odyssey set an incredibly high bar with an amazing protagonist, incredible story, brilliant open world. Valhalla just doesn't quite live up to those standards, but it's still a great game. For me, Assassin's Creed Valhalla is an extraordinarily good game. It's just unfortunate that it comes right off the heels of me finishing Odyssey. I spent a lot of last lockdown, or I should say the first lockdown, playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey, so it's still very fresh in my mind. Weirdly, jumping into Valhalla for this lockdown does kind of feel like time has stopped for a year. I'm not putting Valhalla down as it's not a bad game at all. I know there's been bugs and it's had some bad moments, but for me overall it's still a very enjoyable game. If you were going to score it, I would say at the moment Valhalla's probably like an 8 and Odyssey was a 10 for definite. So what is it about Valhalla that just doesn't hit the right mark?
Does Eivor bow to kings?
To defy a king would shame him. East Anglia cannot heal without his honor intact.
And what of your honor, Eivor? How much are you willing to lose?
Firstly, I want to say, it seems about every 10 hours I'm changing my opinion on this game. I think I'm about 30 hours in now. I changed my mind on 10 hours it was amazing, 20 hours I was a bit bored, and now 30 hours I've gone back to really enjoying it again. The more you actually get involved and interested in the story and the village in Valhalla, the better it becomes. I really enjoyed the story of Alexios fighting and fucking his way through Greece. And to be honest, just because he was such a good protagonist, I think that massively marks Eivor down. Eivor is undoubtedly very cool. He's a Viking, he likes to go around drinking and rhyme rapping and fighting, but Alexios just had that edge. He felt like a unique protagonist, whereas for me, Eivor feels like another throwaway Assassin's Creed protagonist. Very different from Alexios. It felt like in Odyssey you were playing Alexios' story. You know, you followed him from his childhood, his betrayal, everything, his story throughout Greece, the allies he'd made, enemies he made, and it really felt like he was very important, and it felt like you were playing something like The Witcher, where it's this massive RPG focused around one character. With Valhalla, I think the difference mainly might be stuff like the village. Although it's really enjoyable, and like I said, it's one of the best parts of the games, I think because you're constantly concentrating on new chapters, you're forming alliances, and you're concentrating on building up your village, it kind of takes away from Eivor, and it's almost like, so far anyway, Eivor could be anyone. There are some big story points, I don't want to spoil too much, which definitely tie into Eivor obviously hugely, and I think he will become very important, but for me he just isn't the same.
There's no shame in surviving, and there's nothing you should not do for family.
You're wise, large walker.
Here, take my silver. You were going to anyway. Buy what you need. Only steal if you cannot afford it.
Combat's pretty much the same, except that it doesn't feel as fluid in Valhalla for me, and also you're kind of forced to keep the same weapon, whereas in Odyssey you were forced to constantly change your weapon. You know, you had a spear, then you would pick up like a scimitar, which was more powerful, then you'd have twin daggers, and you're forced to swap and change your weapons, which meant the combat was constantly exciting. I'm not saying Valhalla's combat isn't exciting, I'm just saying that I haven't changed my bloody axe in about 30 hours. The combat does feel a bit heavier. It is fun to run into a castle and just destroy everyone with your axe, smash them to one side, and it does make you feel like a powerful Viking, there's no doubt. Again, the combat just isn't quite as good. The parrying is cool, but I'm using my abilities less. I feel like at points the combat is just a vehicle to get through the game as quickly as possible. The other big thing is the open world. In Odyssey, you had a clear direction on where you were going all the time. You had your ship, you had the ship battles. The world felt really big, and Valhalla does feel big, but in a different way. It doesn't feel like you're conquering a world. It's, you know, you're very much at the moment anyway. I know there's more countries later on, but I'm conquering England, and you know you're not given much direction. Maybe it's just my preference on what I like to be given in a game, but I found that heading for the lights is fun, but often you might get to one of these lights and it's something you can't interact with yet because you haven't got the right skills, or it's something that isn't worth your time. I think I would prefer to know what's there when I've done my Eagle Tower synchronization thingy, and instead of heading to a mystery and having a kind of almost like a mini boss fight where I'm not powerful enough, I would have rather known if that was something I could or couldn't do beforehand anyway. I suppose it's slightly less exciting riding around manky old England. It is fun in a way because it feels like, if I'd gone for a country walk locally, it would look very similar to some of the locations I'm exploring, but it's no ancient Greece. That can't be helped because you've got to move forward. You can't do every game in the same setting, and it's fun to see sheep running around. Meh.
I am content with my gods.
Not as content as I am with mine, I am sure. He allows me to avoid rage. I am never angry. Never.
Good for you.
Without anger in my life, I am completely changed. No longer obsessed with riches like you. They are meaningless because he loves me. Go ahead and burn my house. Destroy my belongings. I will never get angry.
Something I touched on earlier on was the village you build up as Eivor. You have to go around collecting supplies and materials, and this leads to you upgrading certain huts like the Hunter's Hut, the Seer's Hut, etc. These all generally lead to bigger quests. Really great story, and I've really enjoyed this part of Valhalla, especially because it feels like that gets you more kind of engrossed within that game as a whole. You're helping out your villagers, you're forming relationships. I think there are some romance paths available as well. Overall, it becomes a big part of the game just because it makes everything matter more. The quests are more personal. You're not kind of just aimlessly running around. You're never aimlessly running around because you've always got a quest to form alliances, but it gives it a bit more purpose. I think the fact they brought back this mechanic of building up the village, I believe it was in Brotherhood last, is really fun, and yeah, it's definitely something I'm enjoying, and I like getting involved with the different characters. The other big great thing about Valhalla is the raids.
Plan. God will make certain.
You can basically approach any camp or castle or whatever, and you have to raid it with all your team. Your team you can actually build up. You can go around recruiting new Vikings to be in your team, and you use them to go around and mess people's shit up, go and invade their camps and steal their stuff so you can bring it back to build up your village. It just feels really powerful when you're riding around or sailing around in your boat, your little boat I should say, and you come across someone to raid, blow your horn, and then you go running in and kind of just decimating everyone. It does disappoint me that some things like the territory battles from Odyssey, where you would take over territory and then choose which side to fight for, and the ship battles have been taken out. I really do miss those. I'm not far enough in, I don't want to say too many spoilers, but there are some big things in Valhalla related to Vikings and related to the Norse gods, which I love. Any reference to my boy Thor is something I enjoy, and I can't say that it's not awesome having that, but for me, and it surprises because I would say I probably or definitely prefer Vikings and Norse gods over Greece and the Greek gods, even though I love both. I just think Odyssey slightly edges the bet, and I think that some of the decisions made in this, some of the things taken out from Odyssey, make it a slightly worse game.
What battle spit you out?
The guilty have come for spoils. Was our dignity not enough? You return again to mock our family, to make light of my father's sacrifice.
Matt Seer, you have no fight with me.
I wanted to talk about Assassin's Creed as a whole and how it is becoming my favourite series. It's becoming the best series of RPGs, kind of out of nowhere. Origins was a mishit, there's no denying that. I didn't enjoy it, and I don't think it was a very good game. But with Odyssey, I felt like they really kind of perfected what they were trying to do. They had this amazing combat system. The story was really thought out and intriguing and kept you wanting to go on for more. They added the mercenary system in. You had to kind of fight your way up the mercenary system. That's another thing I miss from Valhalla. And you have the kind of order you have to go through killing. Now they have got that in Valhalla, but I feel like I haven't got as invested in it for whatever reason. I feel like it's harder to find clues, it's more tied into the story than it was in Odyssey. But as a whole, this system they have, and if they can release this sort of game every couple years, they've got really great things. I like the new overarching story they have. Once Desmond got killed off, they kind of developed a new real world story, and I really feel like it's leading towards some sort of, all the protagonists you play as are going to be gods, and they're going to save the earth or something like that. It does feel like they are tying into the real world a lot more, and it's more interesting than it was before. I'm having a really good time with Valhalla, but there are just certain things I don't love about it, and that's the thing nowadays. You can play millions of games, but not everything's going to be a 10 out of 10. And maybe if I didn't have Odyssey so fresh in my mind, I would feel differently about Valhalla, but I can't help but compare it to a game which was very similar that I played a year ago. The Viking aesthetic is really awesome, and I'm definitely going to play the game through, but I doubt I'm going to do every side quest and do all the DLC. That was kind of just me ranting about Odyssey and Valhalla and Assassin's Creed. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think of Valhalla if you're currently playing it, especially since the bugs have been fixed. Thank you as always for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share all of our stuff, and keep tuned in for plenty more streams, videos, podcasts, and everything you want to know about gaming.
Oswald was a man who didn't hesitate when you sought him for favors. A man who was fair and strong. A man who gave his life for his kingdom. Honor him today. Honor his memory. And fight with the same extra courage he showed! For Oswald! Now is the time. Today we rid East Anglia of Rued's clan, once and for all.